Leadership Manhattan Beach Information Night. I am Ed McLaughlin, the Director of Recruiting for this year. And LMB, Leadership Manhattan Beach, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are loosely affiliated with the city, although not directly a part of the city. We do a lot of things with the city, a lot of people on the city council and through the city, through the fire and public works and everything have been through the program. And we get to use a lot of their facilities as they are our city, but we are completely independent as far as anything else goes. There's a, as part of the 501c3 or regulations, we have a board of directors. Our president, George Apostle, may be joining us in a few minutes. I know he was on a business call trying to get off. And this is the rest of our board from the past year. We just had elections, so there'll be a new board very soon. So as I mentioned briefly before, leadership alumni do a lot of things in the city. They're just either citizens and people who want to make new friends or just learn about what makes their city tick and how it goes, to people who have political aspirations to be on city council or on different commissions or organizations or anything else just affiliated with the city. And there's tons and tons, over I think 400 Leadership Manhattan Beach alumni out there. So when somebody from the organization runs for something, they, it's a pretty good pull to lobby some votes from. There's many commissions throughout the city. These are just a few, like the cultural arts, library, parks and rec, planning, public improvements, things like that people can get involved with. There's also things like CERT and a few other programs. CERT is Community Emergency Response Team. That's a local group. And then they have, not sure if they're still doing it, but the Manhattan Beach Community Police Academy, which is a little short program to learn in depth about the police. Our president, George Apostle, said hopefully he'll show up this meeting. We'll see. And our facilitator for this year is Kathleen Terry. Kathleen, would you like to share a few words about leadership?
Okay, doke. Put me on the spot. What I like to share about leadership is that this is probably the best program if you want to meet other community leaders, learn about your leadership skills, do a project, network with some great people, not only people in your class, but with others in the community. And also just have fun. And once you go through the program, you then become part of a huge alumni network that then continues on the whole experience. So it's a program that's 9 months, but it goes really fast. I can tell you it goes really fast. And secondly, I'd say no one ever has time for leadership, but somehow very busy people make this a part of their life for this 9-month period of time. And they generally say that they were so glad they took the time to do it. So that's my offering.
Thank you. That was perfect. That leads right into what Monica was saying at the summer social. She's like, we didn't think we were going to have time, and then they just couldn't wait to go to class to see their classmates and to the next field trip or whatever they were going to learn about the city. So as part of the 9-month program, it meets every other Monday, September through May, and the first pretty much half of the program is based on learning all about the city. You'll go to field trips, you'll go to the schools, you'll go to the health district, you'll go to the sewage plants, you'll go to public works, even do a city council simulation. And then the second half is a class you get together and learn all about and vote on a project and do a project and then donate it to the city using a lot of the skills and people and things you learned from the first half, whether it has to get approved through city council or public works to get those guys to install it for you and all kinds of great things like that. Oh, here comes somebody commit words. All right. Oops. So the first part, which is learning about the city, consists of a class retreat at the beginning and one right when you get into starting the project, and leadership training and community tours. So like I just mentioned, all the different pieces and parts of the city, learning about what makes all those tick together, from fire and police and public works and electricity and the schools to the city council. And then And then a lot of great leadership training, which this year gets to come from Miss Kathleen Terry, who's been a master facilitator for, oh gosh, probably over 20 years. The first weekend retreat is September 18th and 19th. That's where your class goes for an overnight. This year, we're trying to figure it out. It might be a drive to up in PV, I believe is our location. And it's just tons of leadership training, team building, getting to know your fellow classmates. And then one of the things we learn about is civic engagement and the heat and health districts and things like that. And these are just some of the different classes in the beginning that you guys will get to do. I think that's at the sewage plant or the water plant. That's the water plant. So there's a big water plant in El Segundo that we get a lot of our water from, the good water. And lots of, I think this is at the police station. So a lot of the classes are either at Public Works or in the police room or things like that. So you get a lot of your stuff in different locations throughout the city and things you didn't even know were there, which is kind of cool. And November 1 is about the school district. You get to meet superintendents, administrators, students, and really just, see what motivates them, what they need out of from the city and, how they tick and how things work through the school systems. And then this kind of really fun event where the class elects their own city council, and then everybody participates and does pieces and parts of a city council simulation. That's a big night. You'll have a ton of alumni will show up in the audience for that, as citizens with issues or questions or things for your city council meeting. And it's just a ton of fun. And then after that would kind of lead into figuring out and starting off and planting the seeds for what kind of project the class wants to do for the city. And coming up, we'll talk about some of those. And so we have that twice. Also, we mentioned a ton of different community tours in different areas like police stations, the water district, the sewage plant, the Public Works, other places around the city you might get to go to. And then early January, there's this second retreat, which is only a day retreat. It's not overnight. And that's somewhere either in the city, usually. And for the class project, there's many different class projects. And once you get to know a bunch of the alumni, every class thinks their project's always the best and they always have the best class. You'll hear that a lot. But you guys get to, collaborate, come up with an idea, vote on it from, many different ideas, and then, make it happen, whether it's raising money or ordering materials or coordinating with the different city departments. One of the class projects was the past one, which is they redid the Santa float that drives around at Christmas time. The 2015 class did the telescopes on the pier, totally different type of project, but still a great thing in the city. The class of 2014, we revitalized the tot lot over there at Live Oak Park. And there's just many more, from all the water stations you see around town to the clock on the lifeguard tower, to the ping pong tables, to, flower beds, to the bike fix-it stations that are around town. All those were done by Leadership Manhattan Beach organization. Once you've graduated from the program, you get to join an alumni group of over 520 alumni in and around the city mostly, but all over the world as well, because people do move. And many of these people be lifelong friends. And it's just really great, when you get to walk around downtown or at the beach and you're always seeing people that or you met through leadership, and there's that common bond there. And like we mentioned before, that a lot of the former and current city council members, commissioners have been through the leadership program, and various other, community and the philanthropic organizations throughout the beach cities came through our organization. And there's lots of fun parties too. We have a really good social director this year, and there's some big events. This is our 30th year as well. So there'll probably be mid-year, there'll probably be some pretty decent sized party that we get to go to, maybe a formal event depending on COVID and restrictions. But we do have a lot of fun, from happy hours and dinners and Christmas parties to, just other kinds of fun events. And applications are due 15th, a little bit sooner. I think August 11th or 12th is when they're due. So get your applications in soon. And in the next 2 weeks, we'll be holding the interviews. These will be Zoom interviews, pretty quick, about 15, 20 minutes, just to get to know you a little bit and for you to get to know about 2 or 3 of the LMB alumni, and make sure everything's going to be a great, smooth class for you. And then the orientation is coming up in September, and I think we got a full schedule soon. We also, as part of the class, we also have a few students. I think it's 3 students this year, and they're right at the same level as the adults. So it's an amazing opportunity for students to add something to their college resume, to gain a ton of experience, get to work in a collaborative business environment with, successful adults in the community, and really get in-depth learning about their community as well. And here is the schedule. So Wednesday the 15th is the orientation. That's just a one-night meeting for about 2 or 3 hours, and it usually have some refreshments there. And then the retreat comes up on September 18th and 19th. That's the rest of the schedule. A lot of stuff is still TBD, but we'll fill you in on that. And I think that's it. Yeah, we're going to open it up now for questions and comments. And you can just unmute yourselves whenever you're ready.
I have a quick question. I know it's been mentioned that the 2 retreats are mandatory. Is there anything else that's mandatory as I'm sort of looking at the schedule, considering some, work requirements that I might have coming up?
Kathleen,
do you want to take that?
The retreat, especially the very first retreat, is mandatory, and that's because you will really have a lot of team activities and really get to know your class. So that is really essential. And then the second retreat is also, we want to say mandatory, but it's really the first 2. We ask the participants not to miss more than 2 sessions. All right. So, the idea is to attend all of them, but we know that with business travel and whatever, oftentimes you may miss a session. All right. So, so you're the kind of rule of thumb in a way is try not to miss more than 2 sessions. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks. Great question. Thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, Fred.
Also with the retreat, I think one thing I wanted to emphasize with it that I found out it's a lot of fun. And a lot of the things that you will do at the retreat will have elements that you'll be using throughout your project, throughout the rest of the class, but you'll have a lot of fun doing them. So it's not a grueling thing that you got to put up with for 2 days. You might find yourself not wanting it to end, but it's a great time to meet your class. This is when you meet everybody. And you really, it was explained one time to me that made a lot of sense, like at my retreat. I got on the bus we went on a bus ride out to a retreat facility, and I got on the bus with 25 strangers, and I came back 2 days later with 25 friends. And that's the way it worked. And it was absolutely true. And I went on a lot of retreats with Kathleen after that for other classes, saw the exact same thing happening. Exactly. And where do you go where you make that many friends, depending on the size of your class, in a 2-day span? It doesn't happen. I moved out here to California from the Midwest, didn't know anybody, and it took me 2 days in Manhattan Beach. It was fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred.
I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
Actually, 3 questions. You said that we'd meet every other Monday. What's the start time? Is it in the early evening, late evening, and how many hours is each one of those meetings? And then the other question I have is for the project, do we do fundraising for that, or is there something in the city budget that helps to fund our projects, or does LMB have an endowment?
Great questions. So they typically start like 5:30, 6 o'clock, in that range. I think most of the things on that schedule were 5:30 till 8, so 2.5 hours. I think there is a little, Steve, you might be able to help me with this.
Very little money.
Very little stipend in there, like the starter, like a little bit starter seed, but the class usually raises most of their funds from the city, from businesses, people, things like that in the city. And you'll find that a lot of business owners have been through the program, so they're real open with their checkbooks. It's kind of fun.
And I'm sorry, is the slide deck on the invite?
Yes.
Can I download the slide deck? Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
there is a link to it's a Google Drive link for the slide deck.
Great.
Ed, you said that the applications are due, I think you gave a different date. They're
Tomorrow, the 10th.
Yeah, they really, I know that this is tough because this is the night before they're due, but we have to have a hard stop date of August 10th, which is tomorrow, because we have to know if we have a class so we can plan all the logistics. So I know you guys are getting it the last minute here, but that sometimes it's good because you can't overthink it. So I always suggest look at the schedule. That's the first thing. Look at the schedule. Ask yourself if you pretty much can say, I can commit to these times, and then just go for it. You know, it's well worth it.
Mhm.
I talked to a lot of
You're breaking up.
people who have done leadership training programs. A lot of people that I know that went through this program, went through other leadership programs and raved about what they got out of this one versus many of the other ones. It's well worth the expense. I think the big issue is your time. Can you make the dates? Can you make the classes?
Exactly. Did we get all your questions, Ron? Rob?
Yeah. And I was actually just queuing up the application.
Oh, perfect.
Just to see. Great. Phenomenal.
Yeah. You
Awesome.
also probably noticed that we're asking the people who attend the class to be vaccinated, to submit your vaccination card. Because we want everybody in the class to feel comfortable. So that's you'll see on the application there's a place that you can actually share your vaccination card. Lally, do you want to add anything here, because you were involved actively on the board and as the project leader?
Sure, and that's why I wanted to attend this meeting too. So I'm a graduate of class of 2012. So it was the 20th anniversary actually when we were at the class. So now 30th anniversary. And our project was the sustainable garden that is outside the downtown Manhattan Beach Post Office, the Chamber of Commerce. That whole area was filled with grass and some dead trees. So we went through that process. And I was sharing with Kathleen that, obviously everybody's project is a great project, but our project is still to this date keeps the record for the largest number of volunteer hours that both the class members, their family members, other volunteers put in. So it was an all hands in project, when we went through that process, and all of us learned quite a bit. Just to the point that Robert was asking about the fundraising or the fund, the part of the fundraising itself is part of that learning process, right? And you're also, gives you an opportunity to make connections with the others, and that connection and that communication and, all of that is part of the learning process, this whole journey of the program itself. And the one thing I emphasize, I happen to be the project director for the projects that we did. So I was basically managing, a group of 30 volunteers, even though I've had a lot of management leadership experiences before, but I think this is something that everybody can talk to, that managing a group of volunteers in a short period of time is something totally different. So the program really allows you to learn about yourself. How do you react in stressful situations? Because people commit, to doing things, but then life happens, or they've got other stuff, other commitments, and they cannot do it. And for us to be able to know how do we communicate, how do we motivate them without getting stressed out ourselves, is a real, life experience throughout that entire, period of the program itself. So I think for that reason alone, the program is a very valuable program. The other thing I think I noticed is that it is a trusted environment. So you can try different things. One thing I wanted to do, again, I happen to be the project director. In my career, I've done a lot of project managements, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. My goal was maybe try to be part of a marketing team, just to learn those skills and see how do you can improve on those skills. So you have those opportunities within the program. And my last comment is, I know this sounds like a cliche. Again, every project is a great project because these are all community improvement projects that that the classes do. But if you can challenge yourself for your focus not to be the project, but the entire program, the entire journey, I think if you are able to do that, then it will be a very, like Kathleen and Fred and everybody else was saying, a very fun, and lasting experience, and you'll make new friends, definitely. And I would say you have taken the first steps just by attending and being curious and, even filling out the application. That's the hugest step, and time goes by really quickly, like Kathleen said.
Listening to Loli talk about the project got me to think about a couple of things that I really like about the way our process works. And that is that the class will come together and decide what the project will be. And that in itself is an exercise in compromise and persuasion. And also, of course, at the end of the day, you want to conclude with agreement and support. And almost always that's the way it works. But the idea that anybody can suggest any idea for a project, and it doesn't have to be a thing. It can be a community service effort. It can be a passion that you have, and you want to use the class as a vehicle to explore that passion. And so I've always just so much enjoyed watching the process of the class choosing what they want to do and then getting behind it, finding a leader, finding sub leaders, and breaking that project down to, usually gets broken down into groups. It's really a wonderful thing, and I think that there's many aspects of the program that allow you to express your interest and bring them into the program. So anyway, I really encourage anyone to take this program. I've been close to it for many years, and I continually am amazed with the talent that keeps coming in and contributing to the city.
If I could just add one more comment, I think, and I have to say this, I'll be remiss if I don't. Having Kathleen as the facilitator and the coach is an absolute plus. Not that others don't do a great job, but so she spends her time, she's very passionate about, not only she has the skills, but she's very passionate about the program. And I think during the time that I did the project, I was in between jobs. So I ended up having a lot of time, and I ended up spending more than 40 hours a week, literally on the project because of everything that was going on. But Kathleen was always available. When you have a conversation, you don't know how this situation should work out, how do you deal with this? She has a lot of connections with the who is who of the city, right? So all of those contacts also helps, but just her passion and her involvement, I think, is a huge, huge support for the class. So, and that's, I think by itself, it's just something that you want to take advantage of.
Thank you, Lolly. Thank
Totally.
you. I am solicited.
Yeah, go ahead, Fred.
We talk a lot about the project. It's, everybody gets excited. It's their stamp on their class and on what the city does. But I also want to emphasize the first half of the class is really learning everything you want to know about the city. You live in this city, working back on the Wizard, and you get to look behind what's back there and find out who is it that makes the city operate? How does it operate? What makes this city tick? And that's a real eye-opener for a lot of people. And you meet the people that are causing that to happen. And you find out it's a fairly small group when you compare this as a city of 35,000 people. But to me, that was one of the big things. And that will get your interest and your respect for the city that goes on. And if you have any aspirations, that's kind of where they get born. And you decide that, I had no political aspirations whatsoever, but after going through the class, I thought to myself, maybe a commission. I don't have to run for a commission seat to get appointed to it. And it would be a way of giving something back to the city that I had no intention of doing when I started the program. And it's really the first half of the class. And the main focus of that was the city council simulation. Once we did that and sat through a department heads and did a resume or a recreation of a city council meeting, it was so much fun that it really kind of lit the spark, because this class will open up a number of doors for you if you're interested. And then it's a matter of you picking which door you want to go through.
For you and do. Yeah. You know what I really love is that no matter how many alumni we would have on here, we could have 30 different alumni on here. They'd all be excited about certain parts of the program that they did. Mm-hmm. And they'd have their own stories about it, like what really, sunk in with them and motivated them and made them happy. But they all 100% attest to they made about 25 new friends.
And you know what? The tours that we take, which are supplemental, are also really interesting. You get to go to places and see places that you normally don't have access to. The West Basin Water District, behind the scenes looks there. The power generating plant over off of Vista Del Mar there. You get a lot of tours that really, if you want to take advantage of them, we went to the 911 call center, things in that regard, if you're available.
Yep. We also, one of the tours, I think outside of the class, but it was a leadership alumni tour, was we got to see the F-16 line at Northrop Grumman. Mm-hmm. That was a really fun one. And then also, the water treatment plant, the Hyperion plant over there in El Segundo, we got to tour that thing, which is one of the largest in the world of what it does. It's just fascinating stuff you get to learn. Yeah, Kathleen.
You can hear that we are very enthusiastic about this program. And so I guess the question would be, is there anything that you need to know that we haven't shared that would help you make your decision to join us in this class? Because we could go on for 40 minutes and tell you how great this is, believe me. And George, I noticed the president of the board just joined us, and everyone has a wonderful story. So, Rob, do you have anything else that you need to know?
No, you guys have done a great job. I'm going to look over the slide deck again, and my only constraint is that I have an aging parent in Florida who's just about to turn 90, and depending on a health situation, I may or may not be able to make the time commitment. That's my only thing. I think this is absolutely fantastic. And I've formally given back my time. I served on the board of trustees for Major Western University for 6 years and ran the endowment, and the volunteer experience of sending poor kids to school was phenomenal. And being able to give back to make the city better would be right up that same alley.
Right. Now, we have had people over the years where joined the program and had a situation come up like yours. All right. So that does, life happens and you don't know. And so what they did is they did two things. They either tried to find a way to connect from wherever they were. Okay. Yep. Or secondly, they kind of put it on hold and then they picked up the next class. Right.
So that's an option too.
Yeah. So keep in mind that life happens, and we don't even know whether COVID is going to impact, us. So, so again, if you can kind of join with the idea that in good faith, I'm going to do this, but it's possible something could happen, right? And then we work with you on that. So, and even if you maybe Steve's the treasurer, I mean, if let's say you all of a sudden just, in other words, we could work with you. We're not that rigid about it. How about you, Cynthia? Is there anything that you need to help you make this decision?
So I've already submitted my application. I just need to double check the dates one more time just to verify. And then I did it a while ago. So if you need anything additional from me, like that vaccine card, anything else, I can send it your way. Just let me know.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Great.
Okay.
We do need
Welcome.
So George, I think we're pretty much done. Do you want to say any parting words or encouragement, or you?
No. I'm sorry that I'm a little bit late. I had issues. I stopped at a friend's house to use their computer and to use their Wi-Fi. I'm up in PV. I didn't have any connection, so I pulled off the road and here I am.
Okay, good.
I'm sure that you guys handled it all. There's really not much more that I could add. I'm glad to see that you guys are here. And if you have any further questions after this is done, anyone on the board, myself or Ed or anyone else will be available to answer any questions.
All right, everybody. Well, think we're good to go and done here. Thank you all so much for showing up and telling your stories and supporting. And yeah, Cynthia and Rob, if you have any other questions, just reach out to me and we'll get you handled.
And
All right,
thank
thank
you,
you.
Molly and Fred, for
Thank you.
joining us and being a support here. Thank you very much.